Hey, how's everybody doing? I am gonna make the Minecraft stream today. When I got time to do it yesterday, it wasn't a horrible day, but I really didn't think it was a good idea if I streamed. Feeling a little better. I felt better yesterday morning than I did today, but I definitely felt better in the afternoon today than yesterday. Um, I think I did one on Datalov's Pass, and here's the thing: some of these ones, if I remember something or if I see a new documentary or show on it or read something on it and or just have an epiphany where and here's the thing with my health issues, it could very well be that it's something I've done before and I just don't remember it, and I apologize if that's the case. But the this is something my brother watches, and he recorded it for me so I could watch it. But it was Expedition Unknown. There's a guy, Josh something or other. He's involved with two or three shows that are currently on the air right now, and they did a UFO special, and they brought him in and another girl. I think it was him. They brought him in and this other girl to kind of host the debate on it. And there were people that thought that he was an alien. It was a joke, but there were people that were tweeting in or whatever on it to state that they think he was an alien replicant because they'd never seen him in a suit before. And when they asked him about it, he made a comment that, well, hey, I was in. So he goes, they let me dress up. He goes, normally I'm out and about, and all you would do is ruin a good suit, so they don't let me dress up. And okay, now I 2.0'd, and it was a multi-step process, but I 2.0'd the iron farm and the drown farm. The first thing I did, and just a little shout out, my little call to actions right now, and I'm gonna blurt them out and then move on because I want to get this done so I can talk about Dytalov's pass. Uh, the right, anybody you vote for, if you don't mind, help out. Let them know that we need to legalize assisted suicide. And long story, I'll talk about it more on future streams. Go back and watch some of the older ones if you want to. I go into a little more detail every time I talk about it. And the other thing is, write your federal elected officials at all levels, but in Washington, the ones that you have at home, I don't think are going to be that much help. But write them and let them know that they need to get Chuck Schumer, and in the Senate, they need to get his bill attached to the Defense Authorization Act for UFO disclosure. I got a feeling that it's more likely we're going to find criminality, money being stolen, money being laundered for other projects, than necessarily finding UFOs. It's possible, but I think it's far more likely we're going to find clear and definitive answers into where billions of dollars go every year. I think we're going to find out clear answers as to why that one whistleblower came forward and told Congress that money is stolen all the time for things it was never approved for. I think that's far more likely to come of this. And the other one is Senator Gillibrand and Mark Rubio, I believe, had one that would get attached to the intelligence authorization. We need both of those voted on and passed. It sounds like there is at the one point, the one Australian reporter said his sources in Congress said that the Schumer one had bipartisan support in the Senate. They just needed to make sure they had the votes for it in the House and get that done. I'm gonna wait until I can go ahead and sleep and make the sun go, make the sun come back up. Uh, there we go. But get that done. Tell them not to get put off by the dysfunction in the Republican Party. Tell them not to get put off by what appears to me, at least possibly, criminal charges being brought against the president's son and being brought against a senator in the Democratic leadership, maybe to warn them off of doing this. We need it. If there's people that are stealing money, if there's people that are hiding ET, if there's people that are hiding technology, they need to go to jail. If they've broken laws, and if not, maybe write some new laws, put them in jail. First thing I did is I put this in here, not the hoppers, but I just put in the mud track with the water so I could come in here, unhook the golems, and drop them in there. That was the first thing I did. And then after it ran for a little bit, every now and then, these things, my leads were going over. I weren't picking them up when I released the thing. So, and I just recently did that in the last day or two. I got some iron and I put those in. So if my leads go over, they get picked up in this and I can just grab them. And then the next thing I did, I was down here working on this here, the kill chamber, what used to be the kill chamber, and I was putting in magma cubes, like right here, you know, like a step or two back, and that really changed it because the iron golems were not dying. Like originally when I put the drown thing in to turn zombies into drown, the golems were getting killed real easy then. And I didn't want them to die quite that fast, so I put in the magma. And I was getting a lot of drops, and they were lasting a little bit longer. But one of the problems I had is when I would release these things, I would occasionally get the drowned swimming up here. Or baby zombies. They would, so now, and I think they can still get out. It's rare, but I put the magma cubes in here yesterday to kill them off, so they wouldn't come out as much. And while I was working on this, and you know, because of that, I was adding on to this to prevent them from coming over. I wanted them to come down. Well, it just dawned on me. Now, I'm not saying it's never happened. I do not remember seeing one of these in a video. And I've never made an iron farm like this. I've done a different type of spawner where you send them into the nether, you hang out here for a little bit, and you build them up and then send them in and then go kill them for the loot. That I've done before, but I've never done it with an iron farm. And so I got thinking, I'm like, well, you know, I could put a portal here. Send them into the nether. I didn't know if it would work because if you go too far away, things tend to despawn. And so I didn't know if that was going to work, but I tried it out, and I'm getting my drops. This I just did. I opened this up, and just like I had at the top of that one up there for the leads, I got a row of hoppers here, and I rerouted them so that when the stuff comes out of here, it does not go into the nether. I can pick it up. You know, you should be able to pause this. Like when this gets on YouTube, you should be able to watch it, pause it, and hopefully you'll build something better. But you can at least build something like what I got here. But I get my drops in here again now from when they turned into drowned. And but I basically got one that comes all the way across here, under there, and and that's the same chest I used before. And I also put in a. I haven't done it yet. I was thinking about putting another row of magma cubes there to kill them, but these guys here I think are getting knocked back up here from the golems on the other side. I might be wrong, but I think that's what's happening. And so that, and then there's one other thing I might do. Oh yeah. Right now, the only way I get these guys released is by coming in here and hitting that. I eventually, and I might do it later today, I might do it later in the week, I might forget about it and do it next week sometime. But I want to put a timing device on there so that I wanted to put a timing device on there so that it'll happen automatically. But I want to get a few other things streamlined before I do it, because I've had this happen before where I build one of these, and then when you go into the Nether, there's so many mobs in there that you can't literally move. It's that bad. Um, but there's that. So that's pretty much everything I've done out here. The other thing, I'm gonna go show you the Nether side of this in a minute while I'm here. As I had my dripstone working, I made a row of them. I made the bricks first, blocks first, and I put those in, and then I slowly started to put magma in there. I think I took two things of magma. I put one on either end. Well, the magma does not build up in here until you have a solid block of magma or lava above it. You can't have the lava start there and run down here. These would never fill up. I was only getting lava here. Well, half the time I was taking them to build my portal down there. The other half I was going up there to extend the magma line. And now I've got pretty much a renewable supply of lava. And these guys are just basically, I don't really need this many leather workers, but I put these guys in here. I get 4 or 5 golems at a time now. But I put a row of villagers in here. And now, what I originally had to do, I would have to go all the way over here. This is where my portal was. This is where my portal is to the Nether, and I would have to come all the way over here. Riddle me this. And a little bit of a hike. And I've got one horse I've captured. I need to get another horse, and I've already got a barn. It ain't finished, but I got a barn laid out. I might build another one, but I'm going to have a horse farm pretty quick. When I get back, I got to get some more food. I'm running low. That's the only nice thing about going back and forth the long way. Especially on the trip back, I would pick up a little bit of meat. Send a clip of that to the vegan teacher. But I would pick up a little bit of meat on the way back. Didn't matter what it was: pork, beef, chicken, whatever the sheep give you, lamb, I think, and then I'd throw it in the furnace over there. So I got a fairly good collection of cooked meat. Now this here, I don't really have a good thing yet. I want to find another, like a shortcut to get up there. Right now I got to swim through the lake, and occasionally I come over here and there is a Yahoo. Yeah, there's a Yahoo, but I came through the one time and there was a Yahoo with a trident, and I could maybe take him now because I have armor, but I did not have armor back then, so I was a little more skittish about getting near him. When I was playing on that Ace of Spades server, I was mapping. I was in a boat. It was early game. I didn't have any armor then there. And I didn't even know he was there. One of those Yahoos speared me because he was down in the water. Fucking killed me. I lost all my shit, and I could not find where I was before all my stuff disappeared. Yeah, this is how far I had to travel every time. I'm going to wait until I can sleep in the bed. Because otherwise it's definitely going to be night when I come out of here again. And I just don't want to come out and start having stuff pop up nearby me. So let's go ahead and sleep. Yeah, this one here, I told you before, I may end up giving in to where when I come over here to build something, and I'm kind of on the fence of doing it right now, I'm just going to own it. I'm going to be honest. But when I come over here to build stuff, I might actually go into either easy. Right now, I think. Yeah, I turned it down to normal when I started the stream. Some of the times, like when I'm trying to work the iron farm and that, I put it in hard mode. Get more drops, but more spawning. But when I come over here to build stuff, I might start putting it in easy or maybe even peaceful until the build's done. Because as you can see it, there's a Yahoo moving around. And I can get in here pretty quick. But if if I'm out building something, it's a little different story. Okay, now this is where I put the nether portal that matches up with the one I just showed you. That is in here. But it's built in there, and that matches up with the one at the base that the iron golems and the drowned and zombies are dropping into. There you can see it there. Okay. Now, I built the second one so I can, because I don't want to jump in there. I'll end up in the killing chamber. And there are times where there is a shitload of zombies down there. Oh, that is officially my first wither skeleton. I got a sharpness knockback too. I actually got a guy who gives me looting swords now, so I actually have a looting 2 sword. It's in the chest waiting to get it. But yeah, I have to come over. This is the way I start. I dug my tunnel. And if you've never linked to nether portals, because when I built that other one, it was not creating a new one. It just linked into an existing nether portal. All you got to do is, if you are in the nether, we're not going to stand there. Like right now, if you look, I'm 74, 60, or 75, 65, 96. As far as I know, all you really have to worry about is the first one and the last one. The middle one is your elevation. So we're at block 65 top to bottom. And what you need to do is you need to take that, like right now, if I wanted to build a portal here and I wanted to get the matching coordinates in the overworld, all you gotta do is take 75 times 8 and 96 times 8, and those are the coordinates you should build it at. As a general rule, and I don't think it has to be this precise, but as a general rule, if you are building it in the overworld, like let's say this was the overworld and I had 80 by 90 or 80 by 800 were my 2 coordinates, I would need to go in here and build it at 10 by 100, because you take the ones in the overworld and you divide them by 8. Well, if they don't come out even coming back, like when I go from here to the overworld, those are even. They match up. And because it's an even number. It's when you're dividing to come into the nether that you have a problem. Well, what you do is I tend to round, if it's below 5, I tend to round down. If it's 5 or over, I tend to round up. and I don't think it has to be that exact. If you're 1 or 2 blocks off, I think they'll still link up. But what I did was, you can see all them good guys are in there, and all my beautiful drops are right here. I gotta work on something else. This is just real primitive, but it's about what I had to capture them in the overworld. And then when I send in some more golems, they'll get killed right away. They'll take a lot of them guys out with them. And then this I tunneled out. I think I added this on. Like all of this, I think I just basically built it to match what was above, towered it up. And this was all built by me. So there shouldn't be any nether skeletons spawning on here. But in theory, if this was 3 high, they could maybe spawn here. And then what I did was, I figured out where I wanted the portal roughly in the overworld. And I came and looked at the like, well, either that or I came in here and I'm like, well, God, I'd really like to build, because I didn't want to have it too close and have them right on top of each other. And I looked in here, and this one here, it's right next to another fortress. And I thought, well, hey, what's this look like? I think I got the coordinates here first, and I went and marked it with a torch. And it was nearby. I had this all done. And then I went and mapped it out on the other side to see where it was, to see if I needed to move it in here. And it's here on the other side of this hill. And I'm gonna 2.0, maybe even 3.0 this later. But for right now, this is what I got. And then I did this, so I had my stairs. And the other thing I'm doing is, a lot of these I'm terraforming them so they have that look. It's better in some spots than others, but for the most part, you will only be able to get in and out through the stairs. These things here are going to be built to where the mobs, at least normal mobs, will not be able to jump the 2 blocks high to get in here. And then I'm putting like a log ring around them. And that's what I've gotten done on that. Them are the big improvements I've made. Okay, now what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to be working on something hopefully so goddamn mundane I can actually talk to you about Dytalov's Pass while we're I can build it while I'm talking about this, and it won't bother me too much. Let me go drop my loot in the... I got to build a furnace over there, but I probably won't worry about that until I actually get... didn't show it to you. I'll show it to you when it's finished. But I have my blaze farm over there. And I can't believe that. That's the first wither skull that I've gotten. And I don't think I'm that good. One of the guys I used to play with, he would summer the wither in the nether, and he would dig like a 1 wide tunnel, kind of like that one I went to get to where I put the capture thing for the nether portal. He'd build something like that. He'd just dig a tunnel, and he'd summon that wither skeleton, and he would get the thing to chase him. And he would use them to tunnel stuff out and find stuff, and then he would go pick it up later. But he would use or he'd have me follow. He'd do that, and then I'd follow and pick stuff up for him. And he would just basically tear ass through the nether using the wither to fucking blast through it. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do here is, this mostly I built this, and it's where I got my Fletcher villagers, and I didn't really like the looks of it. And so I was already thinking, when I was looking at that, I might just tear that house down and then do something like this, like an open gazebo. And I ended up doing this because quite often the iron golems would spawn in here. And I was getting tired of having to dig them out. So I built this, and as you can see, I think this was the first one I did, but I kind of dug it out to where most of it you can't you can't get up on this side. You can only get in from that one entrance. Same thing here. I kind of, it's not perfect. It might get a little more work done later, but I have it to where you can only get in through the way in. And, but I mostly did this one when I did it because I was tired of the golems spawning in there. So I put up the gazebo. I made this low enough that they should not be able to spawn in there. If they do, they do. But so far they haven't. It's been really, really good. And then that's what I'm going to be doing here as much as I can. And I'll have to do odds and ends, but I'm going to be basically trying to figure out where a good spot to build this is. And if I see anything wrong, and I goofed up a few times when I was laying this out, so I might find some stuff that's wrong, but I think I got this right. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to build this a little higher than the other one, and I'm going to have to extend the roof so it'll cover that guy too. Uh, 8:30. Yeah, it's good this side. Yeah, this is where I screwed up. I got one I Okay, so this one 494. Yeah, okay, this is all I did wrong. I'm gonna go get some new food, and then while I'm at it, and here's the thing, and I'm gonna call this a glitch. Maybe it isn't, but every now and then, and this happened. I think it is a glitch, but every now and then that would happen in the old game too. And maybe it's not the game, maybe it's the Xbox. I don't know. But these things will stop spawning iron golems, and the one couple of the times it's happened, uh, the the cats would get into where I had the villagers, and they would prevent them from getting to the workstation. And I would have to literally kill the cats. And I'm okay. I consider it like a poor man's string farm. And I should, just for the visual effect, the stuff I put the meat in, I should put ice blocks around it. Uh, okay. Oh shit, I got plenty of these. And but then when it was happening, I put these glass blocks up because some of these guys, there was nothing blocking them. There were no cats in it. They're just standing back here being a douchebag. So I put the glass blocks on there to push them forward, and it still didn't want to come. So what I did is I rebooted. I still got one that I got to do. What I did, I pushed those guys forward so that they would. That guy's got to get done. But it would basically prevent them guys from being too far away. But they're spawning in there. I got to basically put a roof on that too. That's not the priority right now. And but to be fair, I'm going to call it a glitch. But to be fair, the programmers probably did not envision that the number of iron golems that would be spawned and then magically vanish all at once. I was sending like 4 or 5 at a time. Because it was happening a lot. You might even get to see it while the stream's going on. I don't know. But they did. They just quit spawning. And sometimes in the past, if you spawn a new gala or a new villager, if you move a villager, if you kill off a villager, it'll sometimes clear itself without having to reboot. But I've just been rebooting. And if it happens here, we're just going to live with it until the stream's over, and then I'll reboot. But well, anyways, Dytalov Pass. What am I gonna do? I kind of like the pattern I've got. I don't like that roof, so I think I'm gonna go cut down a whole bunch of. I think I'm gonna go cut a whole bunch of the Arcadia wood down. I like that. This one isn't so bad, but the one over there, I don't, and this I don't, it doesn't really look as good to me as that. I might 2.0 that later, but I built that, and I thought it was okay at the time, but now that I'm looking at that one I just built, I like the contrast on that. Well, anyways, Dytalov Pass. I think it's Josh Gates, but I'm not entirely sure that I got the last name right. But he's got, and I don't watch him like my brother does. They're not a regular thing for me. But when I have watched them, they look good. They really do look good. So I mainly the thing is, even with what's going on, I do not have all the time in the world to watch. I mean, there's only 24 hours a day, and depending on the day, I'm only awake for like, 12 to 16 hours of it. You can't watch everything. You just physically can't watch everything. You can't fit 80 hours of TV in a 16-hour day or a 12-hour day. You just can't. But the show looks really good, and then occasionally there's certain things I've kind of told them. I go, well, if you want, you anytime it's on, you can tape these subjects for me, because there isn't as much TV on the weekends, and if he records something that I'd be willing to watch, maybe, and sometimes I don't. But if it's something I might be willing to watch, I can put that on the weekend when I'm in the kitchen feeding the cats or cooking, and they're just like right now. I got MSNBC on in the background. It's going on while I'm talking to you guys. When I was doing the first stream, I had that paranormal night shift on. There's good stuff to watch. Weekend, and again, I'm not complaining, but there's just there's good stuff on, but I'm not used to it. Where like this stuff here, this is their normal schedule during the week. 5 days a week, I can usually find something to watch. Like today, they got that William Shatner's Unexplained thing on the History Channel. Earlier, it was that guy from that guy from the Matrix movies, Morpheus. He's got his show on, and that's a good show. And that was on this morning. Or either that, or was that one that the former James Bond narrates, where they're looking at mysteries. Oh, I just want to say, if you are one of those people in Hollywood, writer, director, studio boss, I don't care, that's locked in this industry where they don't seem to be able to make a goddamn good new movie. They're always trying to rebuild an old movie, or reboot a TV show, or show you the how the TV show got. And I'm gonna say this: one of the best ones of those I've seen was the A Team one, where they show you how the A Team got started. Before B.A. Baracus got with them, and all that. Uh, and I'm not shitting on them. Some of them are pretty good, and there's been others they did. But if you're in that culture where you can't come up with new original shit, watch that show that Pierce Brosnan is narrating, where they're going over these bank robberies and stuff. Because again, that's not a show I regularly watch. It looks like a really good show on the History Channel. But the first one my brother was watching, I actually sat down and watched a little bit of it when he had it on, because what happened was they were covering a real bank robbery. And it was like the bank robbery from hell. They occasionally a golem will spawn under there, and I can go in and pick up the iron after they suffocate. Yeah, I'm not seeing any, so maybe we're in that thing where they are not spawning again. It happens. Happens a lot more since they upgraded the. There you can see it too. That's like a nice little circle, sorta. And at least on that side is what I'm gonna do some more of these, where I build those, and you can't get to them unless you get up on the platform. Okay, and what we'll do. That's a glitch too. Uh, every time I quit the game and I started, it auto and never used to do that. I left it wherever you had it, but when I come back in, and again, maybe it's not the game, maybe it's the Xbox, I don't know. But every time I restart the game, I gotta reset this from being all to craftable. Where it used to be, at least it seemed like me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed to be like in the past it would just leave it at default wherever you set it. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. Hang on, I gotta go. I'm gonna probably need more wood, and I only got one row of those over here. Total fuck up. I started making the slabs instead of the stairs, and I need the stairs. That's the biggest. Like this one's smaller. The one that I made's like minute. This one's gonna be the biggest one. One of these I've made over there. Oh, okay, good. I already got these planted. I couldn't remember if I planted these or not. I thought I hadn't. Um, fuck up, fuck up, fuck up, fuck up. Uh, this could be a lot better, but it's starting to shape out a little bit, little by little. Uh, well, anyways, he's got that show, uh, Expedition Unknown, not Expedition X. He's got it. That one there's kind of like Beyond Skinwalker, where they go out and they do this stuff, and then they report back to the guys from Skinwalker. Okay, pretty sure I did that one as a 5 high. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm on 3 now. 4, 5, 6, 7. Lucky number 7. And then the other one he taped, and I think they were both on the Discovery Channel. I might be wrong, but I think they were both on the Discovery. The other one was, and according to the commercials, I would be willing to bet that both of them are probably able to watch on that Max app if you're on it. You might even, I don't know this because I watched him when I watched him on the TV when he recorded them. And but yeah, you can probably catch them on the Max app. You might even be able to catch them on YouTube, maybe at least clips of them. And but what happened was they both covered Dytalov Pass, and I haven't seen either one of them before. Now that one, I can't remember the year it came out. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. So if that show is still on, it would be from a couple seasons ago. And and the thing I will say is the one of them, it was the Yeti Massacre or something like that. It was just on, and I think that was a relatively new one. I'm not. None of them were bad. If they were shitty, I wouldn't be. Well, I would be telling you they were shitty. I thought both of them were very well done, and I wouldn't be really out here recommending them if I thought they were shit. I think but these they're not just like, oh well, there's something good to watch. I thought they were very well done. I really did, and the first one, and this is the way and I don't think it would have made any difference. My brother recommended I watch the Unexplored one or the Expedition Unexplained or whatever first, and then watch the other one. And like I said, that new other one I think was a new one, and it was just on. But what happened was with the one Josh did, and I am not ripping on it, it didn't seem to me that he covered any new topics. Like the stuff he covered. Ta-da! I'll probably take damage when I jump. Oh, no. I didn't jump off. I didn't take damage when I jump off. I managed to jump down and not take any damage because I landed on Old Faithful here. I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle. But in that one there, I don't think he covered anything new. But the thing I liked about that one was he literally, and I would say reasonably, tried to debunk the different theories. And I may not be getting them all. Oh, what the fuck? I might not be getting them all, but the top theories that I can remember off the top of my head was the government's involvement. The possible fact that they were massacred by some, basically like the Russian Eskimos. I'm not saying they are, but when I looked at them, the way they dressed, the way they're facially, and to me it was like the Russian Eskimos. And I think they called them the Muncies or something like that. It was something along. If I'm not getting the name right, I'm getting it close. But there was speculation that they may have been killed by them. And I'll try and knock these off one at a time. Uh, there's the theory that there was some kind of a supernatural event. There was a theory that some escaped gulag people killed them. And you know, and them are the big ones. And then I think there was some that maybe they attacked each other. That there was some natural but extraordinary circumstances. Well, the thing that I will say about Josh is they looked at him, and the first thing was, and I had seen this before, and the idea wasn't new, but he debunked it because there was one photo that I've seen on this, and it might have been on The Proof Is Out There. It might have been on something, maybe even Ancient Aliens, but it was somebody else's show. And what they found was there was a photograph, and it was low quality. It was not very sharp. It was kind of blurry. And there was speculation that it could have been a Yeti, something other than human. And as crappy quality as the picture was, I would say that that's a possibility. And and I'm gonna tell you right now, some of this might be from one show, some of this might be, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be conflating the two stories into one, at least in some stuff. And for that I apologize. But let's see. Nope. The trees have not all popped up. Let us go harvest some emeralds. And the when it came to those Muncie people, because that was one I found really credible, because apparently they don't think much of women, and there were women on there, so they're like, oh, they might have resented that. There are tribal. They're kind of tribal, and I guess they've got pretty strict rules about if you go into their sacred places. So maybe not. But it was at least, I would say, a possibility. While and I can't remember if this was on Josh's. Some of it might have been on Josh's. Some of it might have been on the other one. It was something recently on Discovery. I don't know. They might have it on again because it's this month. This month is Halloween month or whatever. But it was something about the Yeti, and it might be in the description, not in the title. But it was something about the Yeti and Dytalov's Pass. And it was the whole thing, and I think it was made within the last year. If it wasn't made this year, I think it was made in the last year or two. And but when they were talking about those Muncie tribal people, Josh and them stayed with them. Like when he went there, he stayed with them. I don't know if the other one did an in-depth look like what Josh did, or if they were just reporting on the evidence as it was reported and doing the research. But Josh actually went, and his team, they stayed with him. They were basically there being hosted by them, and they seemed like really really nice people. And he came away with the theory that those people did not kill them, because they just seemed like really nice, decent people. They tried to answer their questions. You take a look at the Trump administration. If you've done something wrong, you're usually acting a whole lot different. That I can't think of the guy's name. He was the one who took over the Hillary investigation after they got that. Oh god, that guy from California, the one that he made a shitload of money selling car alarms. Trey Gowdy, I think, was the guy's name. He's the one that took over the Hillary investigation. Well, at a certain point, he was quoted telling the Trump people, well, if your guy is innocent, tell him to stop acting like he's guilty as sin. And this is a Republican saying this. But that he didn't talk like that until he was basically on the way out, until he had given up trying to work with those fucking people. And, we're either going to use some of these or we're going to... we'll get them later. And, Josh he came to the opinion, and I don't think he's wrong, but he came to the opinion that the way those people were acting, even after all these years, they were not acting guilty. They weren't. They were acting really decent, really nice. And so he kind of wrote that off as not a likely candidate. And okay, that one. I don't need these right now. Like I got diamond axes and I got a diamond hoe, and she's a good hoe. But I don't need I don't need this stuff. I just want to get these opened up so I can come back with iron from the Golem farm and get them turned up to maximum real quick. That's all I'm trying to do here, is get these opened up so that I can come back with a stack of iron and start leveling them up fast. And okay, that one's good. So that one there, just he looked into it. He really didn't get and again, it's a judgment call. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe you don't want to believe it. Then that's fair. But he made a case for he didn't think that they were guilty. He doesn't think that they're the ones that killed the party. And I think he might be right. It just seemed logical to me. So he knocked that one off. And then the next one was the Gulag. The Dytalov's pass was in the area. And they and both shows kind of did this, but I think they both did it. And the first thing was the Gulag reported that nobody had escaped. But see, this isn't the United States. This is, 1950s, 1960s Russia. If they let somebody escape and it got out, they could maybe be, not just fired, they could maybe be executed for that. They didn't have the same rights and rules and stuff that we did. So, maybe they did escape, maybe they didn't. But here's the thing, and both shows talked about this. If it really was the gulag that did it, there's things that don't make sense. And they do this in our law enforcement. Like if somebody's killed, uh, if they're not ripped off, they sometimes come to the conclusion that, it was more than just an ordinary burglary. Like maybe, possibly, it wasn't a armed robbery. It was they were there to purposely kill them. Because usually, if somebody's killed, if it isn't rage, if it isn't, being upset about something, what happens is they they rob them. They'll take a watch. They'll take their wallet. They'll at least take their sneakers. Something like that. And that was what they were kind of going with. They're like, well, if this was somebody from that gulag, you got to understand it was cold as shit. The gulag would not have let you dress warmly. You wouldn't have food. You would have escaped with whatever you could carry. So they're like, the money would have been taken. The warm clothing would have been taken. The food and some of the supplies in backpacks would have been taken. And, so it didn't make any sense that it was the gulag. That one there, I think he reasonably had factual evidence. At least, I would say he had evidence that was not likely. I think that's a real thing. And so they knocked that one off. And like I said, because I don't want to go over this for the second show, I just want to get it all out of the way. So, like, when I'm pretty sure both shows did it, I'll say that. And I want to get the first one out of the way, and then I can talk about where the one on the Yeti thing differs from the Josh Gates one, Expedition Unknown or whatever he called it, and. But they brought up just some logical shit like, well, if this was really a robbery, stuff would have been stolen, especially from the people at the gulag. They would have taken stuff to survive, so that even though, and I firmly believe this, I'm not sure they said it, but I firmly believe that you can't really go by what the original Russian outcome is. So that's like two of them out of the way. Another one is that they got hit by an avalanche. And the main reasons why I don't put a lot of weight on that one, now, I'm not an expert on this, but some of the people they were having in these shows were experts. And the one guy said originally, and this is a thing, like if you get into the JFK assassinations, the one group that took a look at that again, the one thing they said was there was a lot of mistakes made in the autopsy of JFK. There was the one guy, I think he was an Australian, he works like cold case files. And then the other guy that worked with him, and I think the JFK assassination case closed or something like that. The other guy might have been a ballistics expert. And we can go ahead. Oh shit, I can put these down. I did these right before I started stream with the. You may or may not know this, but when you look at these oak trees in Minecraft, if you grow one of these oak trees and it sprouts into this, it will become like this warped, malicious tree. None of the other ones are like that. Uh, like these here, I put these down while the leaves are still there. These guys here, cause like this here, this is a little bit because of this. It ran into this, and so you get this fucking warped and distorted tree. Where this one looks a little more natural, this one looks a little more natural. So I never plant. I never plant the tree down until the leaves are all gone away. As soon as I get a silk axe, I will start taking these beehives out. Right now, I'm not trying to do that, but I won't. I won't plant one here because I could get into this, and I won't plant one here for the same reason. And then the other thing is when I cut these down, I cut this row, and then as soon as I came over that path, I started cutting this one, so I came back and got this one afterwards. I got a little distracted and screwed up. I was in a hurry, too. Wanted to start the stream. My 2 fans can't be denied. But they... so you had those tribal people. You had the gulag. Those, I thought he did. And again, you make up your own mind. Go watch it. Don't... you don't need to jump on my bandwagon. Go look at the evidence. Make your own mind up about this. But I think he did a good job knocking those down. And okay. And well, then another theory that they've had is oh, what the hell? Yeah, the avalanche. I started talking about that. The avalanche. One of the shows I watched, and this was not Josh's. This was something it might have been on the History Channel. It was something I had watched before. Well, that guy said that the initial report got it wrong because they looked into where the tent was pitched, and what happened was the when they looked at where the tent actually was, they said the elevation was a lot higher there because originally when it was said, oh, it might have been an avalanche, they figured, oh, it can't be an avalanche because it isn't high enough here. There isn't enough of a slope. Apparently, for it to be an avalanche, and like an average run-of-the-mill avalanche is usually found in slopes of like 30 degrees or more. And where they originally reported the tent as being, it wasn't anywhere near 30 degrees. So there's a lot of people that said, oh, well, he went and looked, and they're like, oh, well, no, it was in a different spot. But he even said, he goes, it basically got to be like 28 degrees. So he said it's still unlikely that it's an avalanche, but it was at least a lot more possible. But again, some of the stuff that you hear, and this was the thing, Josh, one of the women that was guiding him on this, she drove him somewhere and then came along. She basically told him that she had, I believe, a Russian accent, although she spoke English very, very well, I thought. Hell of a lot better than I could speak Russian. And but no, I mean, she sounded okay. She had a little sexy accent when she was speaking in that. And she told him that the more you dig into this story, the weirder it gets. But they actually went. They were out there on a snowmobile, and at a certain point, they had a trailer full of supplies, that came loose, and they had to basically go back and try and get it out of there. It kind of gone through the ice, and they had to work on getting it out of there. And and but the guy took a read. He had some kind of an instrument that told you the elevation of where you were at. Well, where they were at was nowhere near 30 degrees, and then Josh flew a drone up to take a look. Now, that one I don't think had any mechanism to measure it, and it was steeper the further up the mountain you went. But again, the previous one that I had seen, the guy was saying that, yeah, it gets up to like 28 degrees in that area. So it's possible, but not really likely that it was an avalanche. And then the other thing, that was pointed out, uh, bacon. But the other thing that was pointed out was, and Josh did, because they were looking at the pictures, and he's like, because the other theory that goes, well, I'm going to lump these in because it kind of fits with the explanation of why I don't think it was. But the other thing was that there's a thing in that area, and they call it a catabatic wind. I think it's got another name, but that I've heard it called that in a previous one. I think they were given the less slang terms for it, but I think they were called catabatic winds. Well, you can basically get something like hurricane-like winds on the land, and it's kind of unique to that area. Well, here's the thing. They they mention that, but then you see the photos of the tent, and I've seen other photos of an avalanche, and when that avalanche comes through, it takes the tent. And this tent was not buried under 10 feet of snow. This tent was not moved and wrapped up. I've actually seen photos when they've talked about other tragedies. And you see the tent where it was just ripped up, stakes and all, and wadded up, and they have to dig it out from under the snow. And that's not what happened here. What happened was the tent was more or less intact. And my opinion, not an expert, but my opinion, this is how I feel about it. If it had been an avalanche or if it had been catabatic winds, the tent would not have looked as good as it did. And there was snow on it. They're like, oh, well, that proves there's an avalanche because there's a couple inches of snow on it. Well, no, apparently nobody went looking for them until like 10 days after they were supposed to come back. Well, that's called just snowfall. It's not called an avalanche. That's just called snowfall, and you get a couple inches on top of the tent. And then that's why it was still there. That's so that I would say the catabatic winds and the tent are debunked just by some of the pictures of where the tent was and other things. And apparently on one of the shows, and I think it was Josh's, but I'm not sure. I think this had to do with the avalanche and or the catabatic winds, where they they stated that they ran an experiment because they were, I think it was the catabatic winds. They're like, oh, well, they got out and they did this and that, and then because and I'll get into this in a minute because it kind of ties into another theory. Well, somebody did an experiment to show that, like they blindfolded people. And they're like, well, if they were snowblind because of the catabatic winds, they blindfolded people and tried to get them to recreate. And this was not in hurricane-like or catabatic wind-like environment. It was just like a normal environment. Well, even in a peaceful environment, being blind, they couldn't recreate what the hikers had went through. And so that was another thing that I think it was Josh's show where they kind of ruled out the idea that it was some kind of a catabatic wind. You get this in Antarctica too. If you get out there during a blizzard or a big windstorm, you can't see more than a couple feet in front of your face. And so they have ropes. And I was really glad because that's the first time I've ever heard anybody talk about that. I mean, it's not a new issue, but they're bringing new thoughts into the process. That when you're out there, they've got ropes so that when the weather's bad, you can use the rope to guide you from building to building. Otherwise, you'd get lost. And they know this. This is like a known thing. But I think they severely ruled that out. Another theory that they had, there was one surviving member of the Dytalov Pass incident, and he is someone who they thought, well, he's the only surviving member, maybe he did it, So they brought him in, had a little look see. Well, the thing was, this guy said that yes, he was with them, but he was with them, but he was with them, but they oh shit. He was with them, but his backer, he had some kind. I'm thinking my brother thought it was something else, but I think he said his back started bothering him. But whatever it is, some kind of a health issue cropped up, and that is what made him. And he tells him, he shows him on a map. This is where I turned around. This I was with them until then. This is where I turned around, and they checked out his alibi, and his alibi held up. He was home, visibly home. He was known to be home before because it's like with all police, they have an estimate for when the people actually died. They take a lot of things into consideration. If you watch NCIS, Ducky always made a big thing that liver temp is what told him, but they looked into it, and they were pretty sure that this guy was home and known to be home when these guys allegedly died up on the mountain. So it's that, and that right there, they didn't really have a whole lot else. And the other thing is the police, suspecting him, they took him to the crime scene. Well, he actually fucking helped him out. Like, one of the things he told him, and this adds to the mystery, this doesn't help solve it, this adds to the mystery. He was the first one who recognized that the members of Dytalov Pass, some of them that were clothed were wearing the wrong clothes. Now, and I can't tell you for sure. I really don't know. But if everything was platonic, because they none of them, I don't think any of them were considered to be dating. But if everything was platonic and nighttime came and they decided to go into their tents to sleep, you would think that they'd be closest to their own clothes. And then, some of the, well, if it was catabatic winds and blah, 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 maybe they were. Well, again, we already ruled that out because they basically said they put blindfolded people on and they weren't able to function. They just weren't. And now, is it possible that maybe they were fucking around and they grabbed like two guys or two girls or guy and a girl, whatever, were playing a little hide the salami, and they got dressed in the wrong clothes? Is that possible? Yeah, I would guess that's possible. I would guess that's absolutely possible. And but at least they knew. They're like, oh well, yeah, this here clearly wasn't their clothes. That's, they had more evidence than they had the day before. And Yeah, I'll. So that one was ruled out, but that one I guess was ruled out back then because I never really paid attention to that. I'm sure it was there. I just never noticed it. But they were basically saying that yeah they checked out his alibi and okay 1 2 3. This is gonna look kind of funky. So they ruled that guy out, and then another one. I'm gonna save the Yeti one for last because then I can definitely spin into the other show. But another one was okay. This is the one bad thing about the shit I already did. I got to go quite a ways to get back up here now. And uh, and so you got the you got the you got the tribal people. You got the escaped gulag people. You got the party member that survived, and okay, I think the only one I can think of right now, and if I screw this up, I apologize. I'll cover anything I remember later. But the only other one I can think of other than the Yeti, uh, well, I can't really remember too much, but there is some speculation that there is supernatural shit going on in there, kind of like a Skinwalker Ranch or the Bermuda Triangle. The only thing I can say is, and I don't know how credible it is. I want to be completely honest about that. Uh, the I saw this on Reddit, and somebody was telling a story that they learned from their grandfather or something like that. He was a prison guard at some top secret Russian facility. I have no idea if any of this is true. It's on Reddit. Take it with a huge ass fucking jar of fucking salt, not just a spoonful of salt, just a fucking shitload of salt. And But apparently it was near where Dytalov Pass was, and they had built a facility to contain it. But it was something about there were incidents in the area that uh, would take over people, and that the facility. I'm gonna call that another glitch. These guys seem to get broken off the lead over stuff that they used to go over like real easy. Like you'll come up and it'll be a chest. They should easily be able to go over it. Well, they'll just sit there like they're fucking stupid, and the lead will break. That's another thing. Well, anyways, and this was a story on Reddit. There's nothing to do, but I haven't really heard a whole lot of talk about this in there. And but his grandfather, if I remember the story right, he 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 was telling that, like they had different sections of real stern security, and it was meant to prevent an entity from taking over a guard and being able to easily get out. So it was basically designed for, non-normal situations, you could say. And oh, come on. I don't need my inventory filled up with shit right now. But they but that was the thing, they really didn't know, but hey, it is what it is. And I don't know if I got enough, but I'll use up what I got. I'll do another layer here. I want this to come out far enough that it covers the farms on the side. And Jesus Christ. And it was a whole in thing, and like the closest amount of security, they usually sent the people they didn't like there, the people that fucked up. And the people there didn't last too long. Uh, the further out you got in the security level, usually the safer you were, but you had to have the same level of precaution going. And there was a thing where because they were basically told if somebody seems to be acting weird, you were to shoot them. And it was a higher ranking officer that was acting weird, and the lower ranking, because these guys were like PFCs and corporal. I don't even think they were the equivalent of like a sergeant. And they made the decision not to shoot the guy. And when they figured, now the one guy I think took the blame for it, even though he wasn't the one who did it. Well, they basically sent him into the shitty part of the prison. And the other guy said, he goes, I never saw him again after that. But he just vanished, and well, then the other thing, when you get outside the supernatural, because that's like the UFO stuff. There's only so much you can do. Like the other stuff, you can look at it. It's like, oh, well, hey, these Muncie people, we saw them. They were very helpful. We read through the stuff. They were helpful to the investigation. Yada yada yada, so on and so forth. But when the supernatural stuff, it's like the UFO stuff. You got people like Neil deGrasse. Oh, clearly, they don't have any proof, so we can just ignore it. Well, you're dealing about stuff that either is, like the one guy, and I don't really trust him as a source, but the one guy said that they've got a name for it in the military. It's called WSFM, Weird Science and Freaking Magic, is how they refer to stuff like what happens at Skinwalker and some of the UFO stuff, because it is so far beyond us in trying to fucking figure anything out. And Nicole Wallace is coming on, so I'm gonna try and finish this up, but I want to go through everything. There really ain't any new news on there. Basically, Israel's under attack. Hamas is evil. The Palestinians are poor people that are stupid enough to follow Hamas. Yada, 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 so on and so forth. There's a lot of people on the left that are stupidly siding with terrorism. And somebody was on the news earlier today, and they basically were saying, look, Hamas is not liberalism. Hamas is not libertarianism. Hamas is not progressive. They're terrorists. End of story. Full stop. And I don't know. But it is what it is. But when you get into the military involvement, and that's like, again, the military and the Yeti are the only things I can remember were covered. And I know I'm missing a few. But again, hopefully you'll either know that you want to check this out, or you will know that you don't want to check it out. And then, you can go watch it or not watch it as you see fit. But the Yeti thing, or the government thing, this is Russia. This is not America. This is not England. This is not Australia. We're talking it's Russia. Barring some freakish realignment and a regime change to a democratic, open, honest government, we're never going to know what the government's involved. We're just never going to know. Whether they tell us the truth or they lie, it's unless they feel the need to open up on this. And I will say this: the one thing that makes me think that the government, among anything else, the chief piece of evidence that makes me think the government might have done it is, I'm going to wait until the sun goes down so I don't have to go up and come back down. The thing that makes me think that, the government might have had something to do with this, regardless of what it is, they might be involved and they might know a lot more, is the fact that after all these years, Putin, the fucking evil architect of the Ukraine war, evil incarnate, fucking Satan's henchman, he authorized a reinvestigation of it. And it reminded me of like Project Blue Book. It reminded me of some of the shit that the military is currently doing on the UFO stuff. It looked like a total whitewash. Well, again, Roswell. Every couple of years they come up with a new fucking lie to sell to us. Oh yeah, it was this. Oh yeah, it was that. And Okay, there will. I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do. I was gonna like do it sloped up a little bit, but if I do it this way, the golem should not be able to spawn in here, and because these are halves or these are slabs, they shouldn't be able to spawn right on top of it either. So they'll either spawn on the roof up above, which I don't think they will be able to, or they'll have to spawn down here on the ground. But they shouldn't spawn in here either. So far they haven't, though. I will give them that. Um, and but one of these was an old one. And the other one, I'm going to probably wait or I'll transition into the Yeti one on this. But one of them was one that I had seen a lot of times before, that there was a top secret nuclear facility in the area. Apparently, Russia was. This was when they were back when they were still working on their atomic bomb, and they had a facility out in the middle of nowhere, and it was in the area that so these guys would have been like a couple miles from it, and okay, we got so they that is one, and this is the thing. Let's just say it's 100% true. We're never going to get any proof, not out of the Soviet Union. We're just not. It could very well be true. We're never going to get answers on that. And I mean, look at UFOs and stuff like that over here. Even Congress, this was fairly recently. They are pretty sure that the Pentagon or some pseudo secret faction is tampering with their witnesses that are slated to come before Congress. They're positive that their witnesses are being tampered with, you know, and they're positive, yeah, our guys are being tampered with, and we can't get answers out of it. Well, imagine Russia. Russia is a place. I mean, this is recent. This is not, back then, but this is. I think it was worse back then than what it is now. Russia had an incident where they figured out that there was one of their guys feeding the Americans intel on stuff. That's how we found out that one virus scanner was being used to spy on Americans. And when they figured out that they had one of their agents that was selling it, he was literally in a meeting. I mean, this was not like that tech CEO from Utah or whatever, where she tweeted out that we were living in a simulation. She vanished. Nobody knew where she was. And then she turned up dead in her rented car. They found her body. I don't know if it was in the trunk or not. This is a guy that was in a meeting. He was absolutely in a meeting. There were witnesses. They came in and threw a black bag over his head. And he just vanished. I mean, this wasn't like that CEO or, oh my God, we're living in a simulation, and boom, she's gone. They didn't see it. And then they found her body in her car, but they didn't see it. This is a guy, they saw people wearing masks come in, threw a bag over his head, and just ripped him the fuck out of that building. And he disappeared. They found him dead I think he was naked in his trunk, and I'm exaggerating. I don't know that this really happened. And I think they found like something stuck in his ass or what. But he basically literally was men with masks. They put it was like a scene from that V for Vendetta. They threw a bag over his head. They hauled him out of there, and then later he was found dead in his car. You had another instance where somebody that was mad, someone that pissed off Putin or was running against him or some shit like that. He literally was shot on the Russian equivalent of our Capitol steps. Was literally shot. You know, it'd be like somebody walking into the Capitol building, like like January 6th, was something like that, where he was showing up. I don't know if it was for work or if it was for something else, and he literally showed up and they shot him in the head and then just walked away. You got those people that have pissed off Putin. They suddenly found jumping out of a window. It's like, oh my God. We're not going to get answers on that. We're not. If that's what it is, then that's what it is, and we're just not going to know. And that's some weird shit, though. But yeah, I need these. But that's the one that it was, oh, well, they got a little too close. Oh, I remember one of the other things. It was one of the other and this one here, I think there's something to it. What I'm not entirely sure, but I think they're on the right track. But we're just not going to know if that's what it is. It's like we're just not going to know. There probably isn't anybody alive anymore that could tell you one way or the other. And the reason why, and again, the biggest one is the fact that they reopened it. If they weren't worried about public opinion, they wouldn't have reopened it. They'd just been like, hey, the story's the story, But it gets a lot of public attention and all this other stuff, and I don't know. And then the other thing, this is the one I forgot. This was another theory. They're like this group with Dytalov Pass. It was all college students with the exception of one person. And what he did was, or all of them, you had one guy, I think he was trying to get his, it's kind of like the Boy Scouts, you got to do stuff to get your badges or whatever, but he had the second highest mountaineering rating that you can get over there in Russia. I mean, like you look at your Boy Scouts, they get a badge for walking someone across. Well, there were multiple badges for mountaineering over there in Russia or hiking in the winter or whatever. And he was basically trying to qualify for the top one. He was trying to move up on the fucking list. And what happened was it was like, I think with the exception of maybe one or two people, they were all experienced. I don't think there were any really new people to this lifestyle. Wasn't like somebody, hey, Casey, you want to make a YouTube video? We'll take you in. I don't know a fucking thing about it. No, all of these people were experienced, is the way I understand it. And but he was like the top rated guy in the group, and he was trying to get rated for, he was clearly cut out for this. The people that he assembled were all good. Maybe not at his level, but they were all experienced. Well, then what happened was the day that they were supposed to go, I just went to sleep, for God's sake. But I gotta come back. I want more of that lumber. I don't know if I can go to sleep. I gotta move this. I gotta move the bed. Yeah. Can't go to sleep here. And The day they were going to go, like I said, they were all college students. They were all in their like low to mid 20s, I think. It was just a bunch of young kids. Well, the day they were going to go, some middle-aged guy just showed up as they were getting ready, and he basically invited himself along. And he argued with them, and he basically got accepted into the group, but I think it was reluctantly. Well, he gave him a false name, and I would say this is the second biggest thing that make me think that again, the government might not have caused it, but the government was clearly involved, in my opinion, because this guy just out of the blue pushes his way in, and I can't remember which one it was, or maybe it was both of them. But what they pointed out was that, and I had never, if I heard this before, I wasn't remembering it. This little, not, it wasn't new that this guy was probably a government plant, one way, shape, or form. And you got to think it was a lot like what went on in Nazi Germany, where you had like people reporting or spying on each other, all this clandestine stuff with the military or the government, and so it's totally believable that the government would want to plant somebody with that. What the fuck? Enemy spotted. Bastard. That was one of the hardest. Yeah, you're going to die too for watching, you little bastard. You could have helped me. Um, but that's just totally believable. That is just absolutely totally believable. Well, one of the new things that they added in, which I think adds more support to him being planted. Again, not trying to put a motive on it. I don't know the motive. I don't. But I would say that it's very believable that he was a plant, because they pointed out that he had like two cameras, and a camera back then of his quality would have been like $5,000. And they said that with his background, again, unless he was being funded by some covert government thing, he wouldn't have been able to afford one of the cameras, let alone two of them. And so but again, I don't remember. It might have been both of them, but they brought up the fact that hey, he's got these cameras, and they so that there's evidence that the government was involved some way, shape, or form. In my opinion, that's where I'm at on it. Well, then with the government, and I'm going to get partway into this, and then we're going to transition into the Yeti one, and it'll be mostly exclusively what I saw in that the Yeti Dytalov pass. The government had that nuclear facility, and the speculation, because one of the things, and this has so far never been explained, there was a unusual radiation level found on the victims of Dytalov Pass. And that needs explaining, because it's kind of like some of the stuff that happened at Skinwalker Ranch, where Travis was standing a couple feet away from another person. He did something and got hit with not necessarily a lethal dose of radiation, but the way he talked, it'd be like 100 times your recommended X-ray level in one shot. Like you're allowed to have so many X-rays a year, to be safe. This would be like a year's worth of X-rays in one dose. He had radiation burns from it. I believe he had things wrong with his knuckles that had to be operated on. He got radiation burns on his hands and on his forehead. And these guys were all radiated, and nobody has been able to explain how it happened. Again, not even getting into why. How was that? Not a matter of, oh, how did this? Why did this happen? What was going on? First, you got to explain how it was even possible. You know, because back then you got to think this was back in the 50s and the 60s. You know, you didn't have the technology that you do right now, so it really stands out as weird. You know, to quote Dr. Taylor on on Skinwalker Ranch, well, that's weird. Yes, it is. Very weird. And okay, what do we got? Bum, bum, bum. Okay. So, you know, that's one thing that's going on. Nobody has explained how this was even possible, you know, let alone anything. You know, I was going to build a pumpkin farm here, but again, because of the lightning dam or because of the lightnings, I want to get a roof on these guys. I might not be able to put that. Might not be able to put those buildings here because I was going to build a pumpkin and a watermelon farm, but I got to the point where I'm like, no, I gotta definitely put something here to protect everybody. And so when it comes to the military, the speculation, well, was did they maybe do this and fake everything because these guys got a little too close to the nuclear facility? Did they get a little too close to the nuclear facility and some kind of testing they did radiated these people and they had to do this to kind of cover up because they didn't want anybody to know. And you know, so they just don't know, you know. And then the other thing was, uh, you know, did they accidentally get taken out from like a testing, or did they use these people for some kind of a radiation nuclear testing? And we don't know. We just don't know on that at all. We just don't know. I'm gonna go get this all the way across. Some of this I'm going to have to go and finish from the top. Then I can put the lights in there too. I might have to make some. I don't know if I got enough. I don't know if I got enough pumpkin lights. Okay, now. You know, and that's something they just don't know. And now we're going to shift over to the other one. And as far as I know, everything I'm going to talk about now, and I might be wrong, and if I am, I apologize. But I think all of the rest of this came from that. And again, it was all on Discovery, I believe. But all of this is stuff that was going to be on the other one. Uh, and what they talked about there, they started out, they said back then, uh, Stalin had an interest in Yeti. And pretty much all of this, I don't think there. They did have some documents, and I would attribute them to the same kind of documents that they have found in like FBI records. Like they have found. There's more to this, but this one I've actually been able to find and read. It's right on the FBI website. They found the Guy Hotel memo. I think it's Hottel. But if you I don't think it has to be spelled right, but if you type in Guy Hotel UFO FBI memo, you should bring it up if you're interested. But what they did was they found a memo written by a FBI agent to J. Edgar Hoover. He sent them down there, and the memo, it's on the FBI website. It was basically, this is the thing I've heard recently from some of the UFO investigators. Some of this stuff predates the Freedom of Information Act. And so this stuff was not written in a way where it can be shielded from, it's old enough. It was never classified because they just never planned on giving it out to people. And okay, I can go make some more of these now. Hey, I appreciate it. Down the road, you can fucking throw carrots at me, but I'll maybe even do a little dance on a pole for you. But I don't need them right now. Okay. But no, and that's the way I would put this. The stuff that they were talking about, I would put them in there with that. These were things that, again, back then, probably never expected to ever see the light of day, and they probably never expected the Soviet Union to collapse like it did. Uh, but it was basically stuff where it was pretty clear. Stalin had an interest in the Yeti. And they speculated, they really don't know, but I think that it's at least a possibility that that guy may have been planted to follow them around because they knew they might go into Yeti territory. The other speculation they have is that the other speculation they have is that the the Muncie people, the tribal people, the Russian Eskimos, for lack of a better, more accurate term, they the speculation is that they warned. Now, maybe not personally, but because they had pictures of it, and they had pictures of it where all these like primitive like runes and shit carved on the trees, kind of like every now and then you watch a movie that gets into the history of it a little bit. Uh, like back in the day, if you were traveling in Indian land, somebody might give you a carved staff, and it was an indication that you, as a non-native, had permission to be there. And it looked like, and they said, yeah, these are warning signs. These are warning signs the Muncies put up, and their speculation is that that they're well aware that the Yeti are there, and this was basically telling you not to go into this area because it's dangerous. And they went in anyways, and I gotta figure something out. Yeah, I should be okay with just that one. Beef, it's what's for dinner. I'll have to come back and get that. And so there's that speculation that maybe, and that would explain again the whole idea that the government might have been involved in that. It's not as simple as someone might want to make out, because again, maybe that guy, maybe he was a government plant, but maybe he was there with the cameras to spy on Yeti. It's entirely possible. Uh, think, yeah, I got some in there, and uh, it is what it is, and yeah, okay, you're seeing it. I'm not getting any new golems here. When I get done with the stream, I'll reboot it and they'll probably start respawning again. But I'm not getting any new golems here. There should be somewhere. I mean, I usually get 4, sometimes 5. They should be in this area. I should at least be seeing 1 or 2 in this area from the. Yeah, there's none of them are spawning in here. But and the other thing is, again, they had that nuclear facility there. It's entirely possible that they killed them because they got a little too close. Um, we will just, and this is something we are likely never gonna know. Again, unless there's something like a regime change, like, and we can go in there like we did in Nazi Germany and start going through their fucking files. And maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I seriously doubt it's going to happen in my lifetime. But here's the thing, if you really were going to go dig through their secrets, I'm not sure that would be the highest one on the list. Um, and then, but again, they brought up the fact that Stalin was interested in the Yeti. Maybe they suspected they might run into a Yeti, and they planted somebody there. We don't know. We just don't know. And the other thing that they brought up, now this was the older gentleman with the fake name. That right there's an indication that something's going south. But that older gentleman, they talked to the guy who was supposedly his younger brother, and he basically said that he was a spy or a traitor and something along those lines, and the government had something on him. So it's an indication that maybe he was forced to go along because of what they had on him. Well, and this is one I didn't really hear them making this argument. I'm kind of speculating on my own. Maybe the government didn't plant him. Maybe he found out where they were going, and maybe he wanted to get, because it said he was a spy. Maybe he wanted to go because that nuclear facility was going to be in the area. And maybe that's why they were all killed. Maybe they all got killed because of what he was into. Not not what the kids were into, not where they were. And they said that on his camera. And I think they got this one wrong because, again, I think they were so focused on Yeti, but they dug this up. They dug up the fact that, yeah, this guy here, according to his brother, and I didn't hear that on any other one that I remember watching. I don't remember it. His brother basically said that the Soviets had something on him. Maybe he wasn't working for the Soviets. Maybe he was working for us or somebody. And they caught him near that facility, and they just took everybody out and made it look spooky so that nobody'd want to ask too many questions. Nobody'd want to repeat it. And it could have been a Yeti. It absolutely could have been a Yeti because when you, and again, I really recommend that you guys get into the ancient archaeology stuff, the ancient alien archaeology stuff, because there was a guy from Gaia who was talking about there were these. You got to go back to the story of Gilgamesh and other Sumerian writing, and this is where you get into stuff where you talk about the humans being on the Earth goes back something like 50 or 100,000 years. And I can't remember the exact date, but somebody that it's a king's list, and it matches up with stuff found in other cultures around the planet. But you got the Sumerian king's list, and some of it, like I said, it goes around the world. Some of it can be corroborated, like, oh, well, they've got this guy who around this time was king and he ruled for this man. Well, then you go to other cultures, and that stuff matches up in those cultures. There's some of those people on the king's list that are actually people from history, and they match up. The stuff that's in there is accurate to what we have found from other sources. But he was talking about there are these five Sumerian cities, like the very first five Sumerian cities. And he said, our understanding of it, they just poof, they appeared. And the people appeared. Almost like they came from another planet. And he goes, for the longest time, archaeology has been saying that these were myths. You know, they didn't really exist. They were a myth. And they found a city. They found one of these cities. It's one of the original five. So, like, when I play Evany, I am naming, like, so far, I might change it later, but I am naming all my subordinate cities after these Sumerian cities. Ur was one of them, and I don't ask me which one was supposedly the first one. But they they found it. It's real, you know. And he said you got to understand, you know, the story of Achilles and the Troy, you know, the face or the vagina that launched 1,000 ships, you know, so on and so forth. The city of Troy was considered to be a myth until they found it. King Arthur was considered to be a myth until they found some bodies over there that may be linked to King Arthur. Uh, there's these creatures that are considered to be myths, and then they find a skeleton, or they like the God, I can't think of it. It's like a dinosaur era platypus, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was considered to be extinct. I think they knew it was real, but it was considered to be extinct. Then they found one. But there was one over there near Vietnam. It might not have been. It might have been in Laos or Cambodia. But I would say by its appearance, I would put it by appearance. Now maybe not any other reason in the deer family, and it's got a strange nose. It was always considered to be a myth. They actually found one in the jungle. Uh, so when you talk about uh, these Yetis and stuff, we're finding, I mean, maybe not everything, but we're finding a lot of these things that people think are myths, and they turn out to be real because we find them. I was watching one of those. I think it was Sightings, or if it wasn't Sightings, it was a show like those back in the '90s, and they were talking about the Beast of Bray Road. That's in my area. You can look it up. It's a well, they don't really know for sure what it is. There's some speculation that it might be something like a werewolf or something demonic or something other than. And when they were covering this on Sightings, the sheriff's department in that area, because it's kind of a small rural town, they were finding tracks. They were finding damage. You had people saying that this thing attacked their car. This thing was in their yard. Uh, and it was aggressive. It wasn't a good thing. And the people in the area that are hunters, they know the area, they know the creatures that live in that area. They were basically saying, we don't really, they're finding tracks, and they're like, this track doesn't match up with any known animal in the area. And the one cop, they were asking his orders, anything weird that you want to tell us? And he goes, well, I'm not taking sides on it, but with some of the reporting that's gone on, they issued each deputy a silver bullet. And then years later, this was going on when I worked at General Motors here before my plant closed, and I transferred and got basically, I think, as far as I can tell, I was either drugged or poisoned, and it ruined my health. I can't work anymore. But this was in the 90s. Or no, this was in 2000. I had seen it on TV in the 90s. Well, they were talking about this Beast of Bray Road because there were sightings a little closer to us, like north of them. Like the ones they were talking about on sightings, it was over in Delavan or something like that, over by Lake Geneva. And that's like east of us, maybe like an hour, roughly an hour, give or take 20 minutes. Well, these things were being sighted north of us, like a half hour away. And this guy was talking about, everybody thought he was nuts. And then I go, oh my God. I go, that sounds like the Beast of Bray Road. And he hadn't mentioned that name yet. He goes, it is. He goes, you've heard of it? And they're all like, no fucking way. I go, yeah. I go, I've heard of it. And they're like, no. And I go, yeah, I really have. It's a thing. And they couldn't fucking believe it. They were just, oh my God. And then they go, where'd you hear about it? I go, oh my God, it was on TV like in the 90s, like 15 years ago. And they're like, really? And I go, yeah. I go, they were interviewing law enforcement over there by Lake Geneva. And I go, they didn't know what it was. But I go, you had people that claimed it had, and I go, they had the marks from where it had attacked the car, claw marks, stuff like that. They had footprints, and I go, the local hunters in the area, I go, no bullshit people. They're like, yeah, these tracks don't match up with anything we know of in this area. They went to people outside the area. They're like, yeah, we don't really know any animals that match that. So it wasn't like, oh well, somebody brought an exotic creature, an alligator or something, and let it loose. These things just, really didn't know what it was. Well, when they were talking about the Beast of Bray Road, I believe either that or it was on something on the History Channel. They pointed out that when you talk about werewolves, you can go back to some of the earliest recorded things about the Olympics. There's stories, and this is like government, this is like official records from Greek or whatever. You had werewolves that competed in the Olympics. So this idea that Yetis can't be real, I think if you are an honest person, you can't say that. You can say it's not proven. You can say it's unlikely. But I don't think you can say, because maybe they're a creature that went extinct, or maybe they're like that one. It was some old creature that they thought went extinct, and then they found it off the coast of somewhere. Oh my God, those things are real. They're still alive, and there have been experts that have kind of looked at the descriptions of like Bigfoot, maybe not Yeti, but really it's just, you got a bear, you got a polar bear, they're all bears. It's just they live in different areas, different climates, and that the Yeti is just another in the family of if it's real, it's in the family of Bigfoots, and it just lives in the Arctic. No. And so I don't think you can honestly say that. I think you can say, well, we need proof. I think you can absolutely do that. But to sit there and say that, oh, well, it's not real, there's no way, and everything, it's just not realistic to do that. And so I don't know. I literally don't know. And the other thing that they pointed out in that Yeti one, I'm pretty sure that was only on that one. There was something real similar to Dytalov Pass that happened like, I think 30 years later, roughly 30 years later. This one, I believe, was in the summer, but they had another incident where these wilderness people were attacked. They had one surviving member. Well, the story she claims is that while they were there and they were hiking, they were out in the middle of nowhere. And I think it was a different mountain. It wasn't Dytalov Pass, but it was another mountain that they were climbing on. And all of a sudden, one of them started acting weird. He collapsed, and he was bleeding out of his eyes, his nose. The Ebola virus doesn't act that fast. But it was like the Ebola virus where he just started bleeding out of all his orifices. He collapsed. Well, then the den mother who was in charge of him, she went up, and as soon as she got near the body, she collapsed. And then it just one by one, it started taking them out. And the survivor, she was affected. It was affecting her, but she was able to get away before she died. So whether she was resistant to it, they let maybe, again, if it was a Yeti and they're semi-intelligent, maybe they let her go to warn everybody to not come back. But she clearly wasn't contagious because she didn't infect anybody else. And she got away, and she was so out of it that she was traveling, and she just started thinking, she's, I got to find help. I got to find help. I got to find help. But again, maybe that, but again, I don't think there's ever any story of them bleeding like that. In fact, on one or both of the shows, they went through the forensic record, and they actually had the papers. They were translating it from the Russian, but they were going over the forensics of the autopsies, and one of them, they said that he had impact marks. He had impact marks like he had been thrown at a boulder or had been hit by a high-speed car. The fractures and everything else. Another thing from the autopsy was that there was no abrasion marks that would have been there if they'd have been suffering from an avalanche. There was none of the abrasions of avalanche activity. One of the persons there, they read the description and they go, when you read that, it sounds like he was crushed. He was crushed by, like being hugged or squeezed until his ribs exploded. It didn't sound like he had been thrown at something. It sounded like his body had been compressed. And again, this maybe is as evidence of what they're calling a Yeti attack. But this other one didn't sound like a Yeti attack, but it's definitely something weird. But they brought it up because it was something else in the rough area, but it was on a different mountain. But when they talked about the two different ones, the physical effects of it, if she's telling the truth, just seemed out there. But they brought that up, and then the other thing they brought up was that guy's past and his cameras. And this is something I think they would have been there, but they seemed focused on, like they started out from the premise that this was Yeti, and they seemed like they were going to steer it in that direction. I don't think they were purposely lying, but I think they had a destination in mind with the investigation. But when they talked about his background of being a spy or a traitor or whatever, and they're talking because this is the thing they brought up on the Yeti one, not Josh's one, but the other one, that one of his cameras was taking pictures at night of like illumination activity, like the military when they shoot flares up into illuminate an area so they can monitor a program or something they're doing. He could have very well been there shooting that nuclear facility or whatever they were doing, but he might not have been working for the Russian government. He might have been working for somebody else. And again, this goes back to, but maybe that's why Russia took him and them out, to get all the witnesses out of the way. And there was another thing that they said in that one, that there was a quote that this guy was overheard making, that history would be talking about this expedition in the future or for the rest of our lives or something like that. So that's an indication that he was expecting something. And again, maybe if he was sent there to go into Yeti territory to see what he could capture, who knows? Who really knows? And then another thing that was brought up in that, they talked about, and again, I thought Josh did a pretty good job explaining it, because they said that they had found other pictures that were of people dressed like that, so they don't think it was a Yeti. But the thing they brought up was that picture was badly out of focus. It's almost like they got to where they were in a hurry to shoot it. It wasn't like today where you got these autofocus cameras. It's like they grabbed the camera and snapped it really quick, and they didn't have time to focus the camera. And I got to be honest with you, in both shows when they show it to you, I don't think it's pretty clear what it is. I think there's some room for the imagination on that. And then the other thing that I think did come up in both episodes, there were slits cut in the tent so people could peek out. And it's like, and they said, and I think they were right, but I think they might have brought this up in both of them, but I know they brought it up in the Yeti one that I watched the second day, that it was like they cut it to peek out to see what was outside the tent. In both of these documentaries or investigations, they pointed out that it would have been a lot safer for them to camp near the forest or in the forest where the trees would protect them from avalanche and whatnot. And they camped out in the middle of nowhere. Josh and them spoke on it, and the person they had, they go, yeah, this was not ideal, but hey, maybe this is where they were. They realized it was too late to go any further forward, and they just decided to camp there. And they said, well, yeah, this basically happens. But in the Yeti one, I think they correctly pointed out that they didn't camp near the forest. They were cutting these slits in there to look out and see what was outside the tent. It appeared that they were afraid. It appeared that they did not want to camp near the trees. They wanted to camp out in the open where they might see something coming, if it was coming after them. And I don't know if that means Yeti. I don't know if that means bad people. I don't know if that means government people, maybe bad people. But both of those I thought were really good. And I don't know what to make of it. And here's the thing on the Dytalov Pass and any of these other, if I do a story on it, maybe a year or two, maybe later, I would do it again. But these stories, if I run across anything new, if I run across anything I find interesting, or if I have an epiphany, even if it's one I had before and I just don't remember it, I will do another one. The Dytalov's Pass is one that I'm actually interested in. But I did. I watched that one. It was Expedition Unknown, and then the other one, it was on the Discovery Channel. It was on there recently, and I think it was a recently made one. I don't think it was an old one. So keep an eye out. They might have it on there, and if I knew the name of it, I would tell you. But it was on Discovery. They just had it on a couple weeks ago. They weren't on the same day. You had the one with Josh, and then a week within the next week they had the other one on. And I don't know. I find it an interesting subject. It's getting pretty close to where I got to feed the cats. I'm gonna call that a stream. I hope everybody has a great day. Hopefully tomorrow's better for all of us. Peace out and take care. Oh, and if you're watching this on YouTube, slap the hell out of that like button on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications so you know when I'm posting stuff again. Peace out, and I hope everybody has a good day.